Hello, beautiful podcast community. It's your girl, your host, Jocelyn. Y como siempre, I'm so grateful you are here. And I am so grateful to be joined by and with my good friend and mentor, Doug Stevenson, who I've known for years now and always have such inspiring, comforting, honest conversations about life and change and acceptance and surrender. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you, Doug.
I'm excited to be here with you. It's a real pleasure to continue our relationship and share it with the world. I think our relationship is an interesting model for people.
Yeah, I agree. For those who may not know, Doug is an incredible keynote speaker coach. And we met when I was working with TEDx Tucson.
Right.
And I remember Mary, the head of the organization, was telling us that she was bringing on a speaker coach. And I remember feeling so excited that we were going to get a coach on the team because it just felt like it was going to make everything more legit. And little did I know that this new team member was going to become a good friend of mine. So I'm really grateful.
Just meant to be.
Yeah. So before we get into this conversation, I'm going to have you share with us what it is that you feel grateful for in this moment.
Well, at this point in my life, I'm 71, going to be 72 in a couple months. And when you get older, you have the ability to look back with perspective on all of the things that have happened, the good, the bad, the painful, the lovely, the joyous, the highs, the lows. And I'm grateful for all of it. I'm grateful for the ability to be grateful for all of it because a lot of it was crap. A lot of it was hard. A lot of it was painful. The struggles that I had in my 20s in Hollywood, the challenges of relationships and trying to make it as an actor and trying to find out who I am and what am I doing wrong? Why isn't this working? And to sit here at this point and be able to look back at my life the way it is at this moment, married to the love of my life for 28 years, grandkids in LA and grandkids here in Tucson, and just living a lovely life of retirement and reflection, and to be able to be grateful for it all. And to see that, it all had to be that way. And it's not as if it had to be that way. It was designed to be that way. And it was lovely in its confusion and pain and weirdness. But I can look back at it all now and I can see how every relationship, every choice that went left or right or center, everything that went off the rails or stayed on the rails, it was all divine plan. It was all just wonderful. And so I've got so many things because thinking about this, like, what are you grateful for? Lots. But I'm really just grateful for the ability to be grateful for all of it, good and bad.
Yeah. You have the gift of hindsight now where you can look back at your life. I mean, but you still have so much going on, so much newness too. Like you started your podcast and I feel like you are reinventing yourself in this new season of your life of retirement. And I feel grateful to have been able to witness you in your transition. Like I remember we were having that conversation of you telling me that you were coming up on your very last speaker coach gig that you were traveling for. So it was like your last travel, your last gig before retirement. And I feel like that was a huge moment. And I'm grateful I got to witness that. And I feel like now you've been finding your way and navigating this new season.
I think we're always navigating our way. And there's like so many new seasons, so many transitions. Some of them are huge. Some of them are big. I mean, I grew up in Chicago, inner city Chicago, and started my acting career there. And then I hitchhiked to Hollywood and had a whole new chapter in Los Angeles for 13 years. And it was intense and it was amazing. But then I transitioned out. It's like, okay, that's not working and that's too painful. And I ended up in Colorado Springs through a series of synchronicities and magical events. And all of a sudden, there I am, being a realtor and meeting my wife and finally having the relationship that I wanted and having financial success for the first time in my life, transitioning into speaking, transitioning away from keynote speaking into teaching storytelling. I mean, it's transition after transition after transition. It's just this, if you're not willing to transition, if you're not willing to be grateful for what it was, but also acknowledge, yeah, that's the end of that. And I need to be grateful for what that was, but I need to let it go and move on and start the next transition, the next phase, the next whatever. When you're able to do that, then you're going to keep moving up to your joyous place. You're going to keep searching for that place of happiness and balance and joy in your life. And you're going to hit on it, and then you're going to lose it. And then you're going to hit on it, and then you're going to lose it. And you come in and out of it. It's like music. It's just, oh, that's a great song. I love that song. Oh, that's a terrible song. Life is like all this crazy music. And so to be grateful for the chapter that you're in, but to know when that chapter is over, and to say, let go of that chapter and move on to the next one, not even having to know what the next one is. Because when I left Hollywood, all I knew is I'm leaving. I do not know what I'm doing next. I do not know where I'm going next. I'm leaving because I was in that much pain. But the beauty of that was it just opened me up to the universe to say, well, we'll take it from here.
Mm-hmm.
And the universe did. It just showed up in miraculous ways. And of course, you and I and everybody listening to this has these amazing resources that we're not aware of that we can draw on. And I knew that inside of me, like I hitchhiked from Chicago to Los Angeles with $250 in my pocket. I'm pretty resourceful. And I knew that. But I also know that I'm not doing this alone. People show up. I call them secret allies. They're hidden allies. They're out there in the world, like you show up in my life. I wasn't expecting you. All of a sudden, there you are. And I think what's interesting about our relationship, which I think is very, very important for people to realize, is there were all of these people in TEDx Tucson. And I kind of come in as this like sage coaching guy, this elder statesman kind of guy, the wise guy that's got all this acting experience and theater experience. And people are looking up to me, and I'm looking at all of these different people, and I saw you. And something clicked. Something in me said, Jocelyn, I don't know what that is, but there's something there, and I want to explore it. And so I reached out and said, I'd like to be your mentor. Mm-hmm. And you said, I would love that. But somebody had to go first. Mm-hmm. And so in these moments of life when you're looking for what is next and where am I going to go, you have to be willing to acknowledge and recognize when there's something there in a relationship, even with a stranger that you don't know, with someone, and just go, I'm just going to put it out there. I'm just going to ask, mm-hmm. Do you want to be my friend? And it's a vulnerable place. Because I know it's strange when I told you that. It's like I was scared to ask you if I could be your mentor. I was scared that you'd reject me. It's like, what am I scared of? I'm this old guy. But still, there's always this sense of, I'm afraid somebody's going to reject me. Mm-hmm. My first friends in Los Angeles, John and Lupe, I just felt that they were in this theater ensemble, the Odyssey Theater Ensemble. Some of you probably know it in LA. And I was in this group of people, and there was this guy named John. And I just thought, I like him. I like his wife. I'm going to call him up one day and say, what are you doing? Are you doing anything? Could I come over and hang out? And they said, yeah. I was scared to make that phone call, but I am grateful that I had the courage to reach out because they didn't have any friends. They were my first friends. And now mm-hmm. You're my friend. Mm-hmm. But you've got to keep willing to, like, in each phase, like, be willing to reach out to somebody, and then you develop a friendship. And it's like, well, now you have something to be grateful for. Mm-hmm. These mm-hmm. are buddies. And this shows you this, oh, life works out.
Yeah, and in really mysterious ways. And you've brought up so many good points that I feel I'd love to focus on in this conversation of, like, acknowledging that life really is a series of continuous transition. And it is important for us, like you said, to acknowledge when it's time to move on and when it's time to stay. And I feel like for you, your acknowledgement of knowing, okay, I think it's time for me to leave LA, and it's time for me to move on, even though I may not know what exactly it is I'm moving on to. Because I feel like so many people, especially in the past couple of years, have really been realizing, okay, I'm in a state of transition, I'm in a state of transformation, but I need to surrender to the unknowns because I'm realizing I don't have complete control. And I'm realizing that, not having all the answers is causing me to stress out and worry and doubt and fear. But it's like, what good is that doing us? We have to either give in to the fear or try to practice surrendering and allowing life to surprise us. So if you could share with us like what that experience was for you in acknowledging, because I know you were so dedicated to being an actor in LA and making it, and you were here for years and you went through thick and thin and highs and lows to make that happen. But it got to a point where you were like, it's not happening how I envisioned. So, walk us through that experience.
Well, I became an actor because I wanted to make people happy. I was 13 years old. I saw a movie. I came out of the movie and I said, Mom, I want to be an actor because I want to make people feel as happy as I feel right now. Because I was just so joyously elevated by this wonderful movie and the fun of it all. And it was just so cool. And I'd never ever wanted to be anything else. So this wasn't just letting go of acting in Hollywood. This is letting go of who I thought I was. And so I devoted myself for 2.5 years in Chicago, studying acting and doing plays, doing theater and getting an agent and making the rounds and finally realizing there's no way to make a living in Chicago. I have to get out of here. Well, of course, leaving the town that you grew up in and everybody that you know and your parents and your friends and your whole history, it's hard, but at the same time, it's like, no, it's good. Let's get out of here. Let's like go somewhere where nobody knows me. And so I got to LA and it was miraculous at the beginning because I came with hopes and dreams and this pure desire to heal the world and to be the funny guy that makes people laugh. And my spirit was just so filled with this is going to be a dream come true and I can help people. And over the years of struggling to figure it out, and everybody who's in Los Angeles as an artist knows this, it's like, where is it? What is it? What do I do? What am I? It's and I did plays and I did showcases and I got up in the morning and walked around, drove all over LA, going to agents' offices, walked in, I'm Doug Stevenson, I'm looking for an agent. And I mean, I just had this desire to I'm going to make this happen. And I started out with this beautiful, beautiful spiritual journey of awakening in Los Angeles because it was 1972 and it was still a very happy, lovely time for me. And then I started to transition into the acting thing. And it started out with this dream of making people happy, that at a certain point, it started to transition into I need a job. I'll do anything to get a job. I just want to get a job. I need a TV show. I need a commercial. I'm getting tired of being poor. Mm-hmm. And it started to get this desperation. And then it started to get into this weirdness of I'm going to do anything. Mm-hmm. I will compromise myself to get ahead. And that's when it starts to slip into this weird place where you realize I have lost myself somewhere along the way. And I recognized it. Mm-hmm. I started to realize I've lost myself. I'm bitter and I'm angry all the time. Mm-hmm. And when I got there, I was so happy. I was on a spiritual journey and I was like in a new life and I was like, yay. And towards the end, it's like, I'm not happy. Mm-hmm. And see, the thing in LA for me was, well, maybe tomorrow I'll get the job. Mm-hmm. Maybe tomorrow I'll get the TV show. Maybe tomorrow I'll get the role in the film. And this goes on for years, maybe tomorrow. And I remember one day, I was a carpenter in LA because that's how I was making a living. I was a carpenter and I was in my truck at 7:30 in the morning and I'd left the house, I'd had breakfast. I was on my way to the lumberyard to get my materials for the day to go to the job site that I was working on. And literally within 15 minutes of leaving the house, I'm driving west on Melrose Avenue. And I started swearing at every single person on the street. I mean, people walking down the street, coming out of a store, walking down the street with a cup of coffee, and I'm swearing at them. I mean, just with this vehemence and this ugly anger. And I pulled into the parking lot at the lumber yard, and I just sat there for a moment, and I just felt my body. And it was just like, I am enraged at strangers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gone. I've lost it.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I have to leave. I got to get out of here. This is not healthy for me. I've lost my soul. My soul is in danger. I literally remember thinking my soul is in danger. And that's where I made the decision. This like, okay, this is not serving anybody. This is certainly not serving me. And how could I go into an audition with this energy and think that they're going to choose me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How could I show up in a relationship with a woman and think that she's going to want to hang out with me when I've got this going on? And so I realized, no, I need cleansing. Mm-hmm. And so I made a plan. And eventually I packed up my dog and my Suburban and some of my stuff. And I just picked a date. Because one of the stories in my podcast, if you listen to my Storytelling That Sticks podcast, you hear me telling stories, especially the last one, which is about making stories that make change happen. The process that I go through is that when you need to make a change and you know it's going to be difficult, you pick a date. You just pick a date. You get out a calendar and you pick a date, and you say, on that date, I'm leaving this job, this relationship, or this pattern in my life. I'm going to stop eating ice cream. On January 12th, I'm going to stop eating ice cream.
Yeah.
And so you pick a date. Well, I picked a date, and it happened to be 15 years and 1 month after the date that I left Chicago, because I had to pick a date to leave Chicago too.
Yeah. And
I just remember, I still remember so vividly knowing when I get out of LA, I just have to leave. I just have to start driving. And when I get out, an hour or 2 or 3 outside of LA, I'm going to be able to get out of my truck, my car, and I'm going to be able to just like take a deep breath, and I'm going to begin whatever's next. But it was literally that weird. And oh my gosh, I remember I can see myself on the side of the freeway, just pulled over. And I got out, and I just stood there with cars whizzing by, and I just went, and I was in tears, but I felt like, I did it. I got out. And I started the next phase of my life. And the next phase of my life was joyous. Colorado Springs phase was pretty joyous. Yeah. Because I got to finally heal a lot of the things that I'd never had in my life. I'd never made any money in Los Angeles or Chicago. I'd always been poor. I got into real estate. I started to make real money, bought a house, met Deborah, got married. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, this transitions and part of the thing about being grateful is knowing that someday I will look back on this and I'll be grateful. Even but if today I'm not grateful. Right. Today I'm pissed. Today I'm angry. Today I'm a mess. But I don't want to continue to be a mess. I don't want to continue to be angry. And so I need to, pick a date. And give yourself a deadline. That change. I need to give myself a break from anger and frustration and pain. And at this point, it's like, wow, I did that. But you see, I'm grateful that I hitchhiked to Hollywood and did 13 years. I didn't say someday, maybe. It's like, no, I did it. I don't look back and say, well, I never even tried. I tried. I tried, and I had some amazing successes and some amazing joyous experiences in LA. I mean, right now, the night blooming jasmine is going on out there in LA, and it's just, you walk down the street and it's like, I'm in LA. Yep, and that's you me. Can be in those moments of joy and revelation.
Yeah, and you brought up a couple really good points in what you just shared with us. And one of them is that I want to really touch on is when you are letting go of something, you're sometimes find yourself letting your whole identity go because you completely identified with this thing. So when you're in the process of letting go or surrendering, you feel like you're losing yourself. And that can be really scary. And I feel like that's partly why people are so afraid to let go of something or someone, because they feel like they're going to be letting go of themselves.
Well, your soul lives on in many iterations. Your spirit, your personality lives on. We get, I mean, the whole thing about the kind of spirituality that I believe in, like the Buddhist spirituality and Hindu, is non-attachment. And non-attachment is just impossible, because we latch onto things for dear life and hold on to them because this will be my security. This will be my joy. This will be my relationship. This will be my job. This will be my income. And it's like none of those things end up being true, because I experienced the most amazing revelation when I decided I'm going to LA and the only way I can get there is to hitchhike with a backpack full of clothes and $250. And I swear to God, that is the most revelatory experience of my life. And I always come back to it because I literally stood there with my thumb out on a freeway entrance ramp in downtown Chicago thinking, this is stupid. This is nuts. I don't even know anybody in LA. And $250, how is that going to do it? Mm-hmm. Even though it was 1972, it's like still $250. It's not enough to do anything. Mm-hmm. And I was going to go all the way across country and then somehow get to LA and somehow figure it out. Where am I going to sleep? What am I going to do? And yet I stuck my thumb out and somebody picked me up, and they took me down the road, and then somebody else picked me up, and then somebody else picked me up. And for 6 days, somebody else picked me up. And people got into helping me because they'd say, well, where are you going? I'm going to LA. I'm going to be an actor. Really? Well, good for you. Good for you. I hope you make it, man. I hope you make it, man. Well, I'm only going like 60 miles, but I'll get you a little bit closer. It was like, wow, this is interesting. I remember one time I was out in the middle of Iowa somewhere, and a lady in a van with a baby in the back seat picked me up. And I looked like a freaking homeless hippie. I had hair down to my shoulders and I was grungy looking. And I thought, why is a mother with a baby in the back seat picking me up? This is weird. Mm-hmm. But she was like, no, it's fine with me. I mean, you look like a nice guy and I'm going a little ways down the road. And this kept happening to me. And I kept being proven over and over and over again. Life works. You don't have to know how. People pick you up, things happen. Mm-hmm. And one of the most interesting parts of this is that I was going from dorm to dorm across the country, because I had a friend at the University of Iowa and another friend at the University of Denver. Well, that's a long way, Iowa to Denver. That's like a 14-hour drive if you do it straight. Mm-hmm. And I got a ride out of the first ride after my friend dropped me off at the freeway. Was in this tiny little car, and I could hardly fit in the car. And I just kept thinking, I got to get out of this car. It's too tight. It's uncomfortable. I need another ride. But I didn't want to get out because it's like, I got a ride. I don't want to tell the guy to drop me off. Well, I'm sitting in there knowing my next destination is the University of Denver. Along comes a Volkswagen bus passing us by in the passing lane. And on the back window of this Volkswagen bus, it has a sticker that says University of Denver. And I took a minute to think about this. It's like, oh my God, are those a bunch of students going to Denver? What if I asked them for a ride? And I took about 60 seconds to go through this. No, come on, that's just, what? And finally I went, what do you got to lose? And I asked the guy I was riding with, pull up next to them. Get in the passing lane, pull up next to them. And I rolled down my window and I yelled out the window, are you guys going to University of Denver? And yeah, can you give me a ride? Yeah. We pulled over. I got into their van. I went all the way from Iowa to the University of Denver with these 3 college students who are going back to school. And when we got to Denver, they said, well, where are you going on campus? And I told them the dorm name and they said, okay. They dropped me off at the front door of the dorm at the University of Denver. Door-to-door service, Iowa to the University of Denver. Those things happen to you if you let go of your control of the universe, if you let go of this sense that I need to make it happen the way that I want it to happen. I want it to be safe. I want it to be this way. I want it to fit into my box. It's like, I've never forgotten that. And it's given me courage my entire life, because whenever I think I need to know how, I go, remember when you hitchhiked across country and you didn't know how? Stuff works. And I got to LA, and I spent the first night in the Pauley Pavilion in the University of UCLA. My first night was in the Pauley Pavilion. And my second, the next morning, a guy named Gordon Nelson picked me up hitchhiking on the street. He ended up saying, come on home. I got a friend looking for a roommate. And on the second day I was there, I had a house in Venice for $60 a month, 2-bedroom house, $120 a month. Can you imagine that? The second day I was there, it's like I have a house to live in for a month for $60. I have a month to figure out what I'm going to do with my life for $60. Life works. Life works. You just throw yourself into it. You take the steps that you need to take. But at some point, you're going to look back at all these miraculous things, and they're going to prove to you that life works. And that's why I'm so grateful for the crazy person that I've always been. I mean, I'm grateful for so many people. I mean, Gordon Nelson that picked me up, and Ted List, my acting teacher, and Ron Sassi, the guy that's running the Odyssey Theater Ensemble, and Deborah, who absolutely healed my life, and just individual people. But I am so grateful for people that I don't know who helped me along the way. They just stepped in for a moment. Can you remember how many people in your life, Jocelyn, just showed up just for a moment in your life? They weren't there to be huge. They were just there to be like, I'll help you get from A to B. Mm-hmm. And we got to be grateful for those people, because they're out there.
Yeah. And they're all on purpose.
Yeah. They're ready to help. But I'm also grateful for things that didn't work out.
And that, I feel like that's also like a part of what we're talking about, of like letting go of our need to control and surrendering to the unknowns and just allowing the universe to surprise us, is like, we have to be okay with things not turning out the way that we envision them to be or imagine them to be. That's also part of the surrender, is like, allow life to work out in a way that you may have not imagined it to. But what if the way that is beyond your current, limited perception, beyond your current imagination, ends up being way better than you could even imagine in this moment? And you won't experience that unless you let go of the reins and, try not to have complete control, which is an impossible feat anyways. We can't ever have complete control over our lives.
No, it's an illusion. Control is such an illusion. But sometimes we get enough control that we feel like, oh, I do have control. We get into a rhythm. We get into a pattern. It's like, oh, this is working. I have this job and I'm getting these paychecks on a regular basis, and this is working. And that gives us this false sense of, I'm in control of this. It's like, no, it can go away in a second. It can all change in a second. But the word that you use, I think, is so interesting, is be surprised. If you asked 100 people, do you like to be surprised? Majority of them would say, I hate surprises. I don't like to be surprised. I like to know what's going to happen next.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. And I've always liked surprises. So I feel like
that's why you and I are pretty much in sync. It's like, we're both good at like, ooh, surprise me.
Yeah. So that's actually a good question to ask people, or someone that you're getting to know. Is like, do you like surprises? Because I feel like it's pretty deep. The answer is like, if they don't, I feel like it runs deeper than, the surface of them simply not liking surprises. It's also them liking to have control, them liking to know how everything is panning out in their life. And I know that this is something that you feel called to expand on. You shared a really beautiful Garth Brooks lyric with me that says, I thank God for unanswered prayers. Why is that specific lyric calling on you? Or why is that something that is sticking out to you that you'd like to expand on?
Well, that song must have occurred at a time in my life when I had left Los Angeles, and I was probably in relationship with Deborah, and it was finally working. I was finally in a healthy relationship. I had become healthy. Deborah was very healthy. And I was looking back at all of those painful heartbreaks and just really sad and shallow relationships I had in Chicago and in LA. And then I carried that forward into Colorado Springs, because I literally thought, if I change cities, women will be different, which was such a joke. But I looked back and I said, I thank God that I didn't end up marrying any of those. I thank God that they didn't work out, because every one of them was teaching me a lesson that led me to the ultimate breakdown, where I had to do some real soul searching, clean myself up, and be able to be available to and see and be receptive to Deborah. And so I thank God for all the things that didn't happen. I thank God that I didn't make it in Hollywood. Now, when I was not making it, you would never, whoa, no. That was just like, wait a minute, that is who I am on this earth to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I lost my identity. I lost everything that I was. I was in a total meltdown. And, but I thank God that I didn't make it in Los Angeles. I thank God that I have the life that I have, because having all that experience as an actor, directing plays, acting in plays, studying acting, doing all those acting exercises in Chicago in my workshop, and in the Odyssey Theater and all the different places. When I started teaching storytelling to other speakers, all of it melded together. All of it showed up. And the people that I was working with in the professional speaking realm thought it was all just fascinating. And it was acting skills. It was using emotion, or using acting and using staging in telling a story in front of a keynote audience. And it's like everyone just thought this is like the most revelatory thing in the world. And it's like, I couldn't be doing that without everything that had gone before. So when I left LA, I thought that was just a waste. I just wasted this huge amount of my life. It was for nothing. And then it started to come back around many years later. All of a sudden, it's all being utilized, repurposed. It's kind of like when you go to Goodwill and you find some gem at Goodwill, and it's like, somebody let this go so that I could have this. Or a resale shop where you walk in and you find this dress or this shirt or this blouse or this purse or whatever, and you go, oh my gosh. Well, somebody had to release that. Somebody had to say, this isn't mine. I'm going to move this along and let somebody else have it. And it's repurposed. It lives on. All of those skills, all those experiences, everything was repurposed into this new life that I've had. And it's allowed me to write a book and sell, 30,000 copies of a book, and speak in 18 countries and travel all over the world and have this relationship with Deborah. It's like, I thank God I didn't make it in Hollywood, because this is better.
Yeah.
And I got to have the greatest affirmation as an actor ever, but not as an actor, as a keynote speaker. As a keynote speaker, I was doing a one-man show. And I got to just have, it was like just me on a stage in front of 600 people, doing an hour of amazing stuff and telling stories. And then, oh, Doug Stevenson. It's like all of a sudden, my big deal. It was like, I was always waiting for that. I needed that for a long time.
Yeah.
I needed that healing.
Yeah.
Because we get wounded, and it's hard to be grateful for the wounds.
Yeah. Until later, when you realize, how those wounds benefited you.
Yeah. Well, they say if you break a bone, it heals stronger. You break your arm and they reset the arm, the bone is solidified in that place where it was broken. It's stronger. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if that's true about heartbreak, but boy, oh boy, I'm resilient.
Yeah.
I'm extremely resilient.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that everyone listening to this, write that word down, resilience, because that is the name of the game, resilience, being able to let go, move on, resilience, find something else, try something else, move to another city, move to another town, get another job. There is nothing for you to be attached to that is your sustenance. Mm-hmm. You are your sustenance. Yeah. I am my sustenance.
Yeah.
And hopefully when you get clean enough with who you are, pure enough with who you are, and this I believe to be true, you become a magnet for the right people. And when you're toxic, you attract the wrong people. Mm-hmm. I was toxic. I attracted the wrong people. When I did a soul cleansing, Deborah wouldn't have come near me.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have come anywhere near me before that.
Yeah. Something that's coming up to mind is this saying that goes, for you to become who you are meant to be, or for you to become who you truly are, you have to let go of who you think you are. And
well said.
I feel like when we are so stern and stubborn on who it is that we envision ourselves to be, and it's not going the way that we want it to or envisioned it to, we are getting in the way of who we are meant to be, of fulfilling our soul purpose. And a lot of the times our desires are rooted in our ego's desires, not necessarily like our genuine soul spirit desires of what is truly meant for us. And in your point, you keep bringing up the words cleansing and letting go and surrender. And something I've been thinking a lot about recently is how, when people talk about manifesting, a lot of them are talking about attaining and calling in and receiving. But I feel like a lot of manifestation is actually letting go and cleansing yourself and ridding yourself of these egoic roots that we're so tied to. Because when you do cleanse yourself, you are opening yourself up to receive what is actually truly meant for you. And I feel like that's something that doesn't get acknowledged enough when we talk about manifestation or when we talk about aligning to who and where we're meant to be, is the importance of cleansing ourselves of who we're not.
Boy, oh boy. Well, our ego latches onto an image. I think for me, it was in that 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old range where I latched onto an image of an actor who gets to be on a movie set surrounded by really beautiful women, getting paid a lot of money. So there was a whole lot wrapped up in that. There's the beautiful women, there's the lots of money, there's the fame, there's to get to be on exotic sets in exotic locations. There was all these things that a little, inner city kid in Chicago was like, oh my gosh, that's like a fantasy. That's like a dream. And so there was a lot of ego wrapped up in poor little insecure, skinny little Doug Stevenson wants to be on a movie set with amazing people and hot women and getting paid a lot of money and being a movie star. I wanted all that. My ego wanted all that. The purity of it was when I said to my mom, I want to make people happy. That was the core of my soul speaking. I want to make people feel as happy as I feel right now. And psychologically, I think I was coming out of looking at my mom and my dad and going, they're not happy. And a lot of the people that I see around me are not happy. I see a lot of bitter people around me. And in my mind, I am that court jester, that funny sidekick guy who can make people happy. So there's all psychological weird stuff going on in there, but it's all ego. And it's impossible to separate ourselves from our ego's desires, because you're doing a podcast that you want people to listen to. Well, that's ego. I'm doing a podcast, I want people to listen to it, that's ego. But to separate our ego desire from what makes us happy, when our ego gets in the way of happiness and we're miserable and sick and unhealthy and starting to make unhealthy choices and being with unhealthy people, then we do need to shed, because our ego is holding us back. Mm-hmm. Now our ego is attaching to somebody else's ego. Mm-hmm. It's like, whoa, it's so complex.
It really is.
That's why gratitude is such a beautiful concept, but gratitude is a redirect. Gratitude's it's like meditation. Meditate on gratitude. Meditate on what are you grateful for? Well, why would I do that? Because I need to turn my head around. Because right now the world is screwed up and it's weird and real ugly things are happening. And I need to find something to be happy about today. I need to redirect. So gratitude, and I mean, I'm 71, I'm retired. I don't need to work for the rest of my life. Wow. Wouldn't you like to be there? I can do whatever I want with my life. I've worked my entire life to be at this moment of gratitude. But there's a lot of my life where it's like, God, I'm not happy right now. I'm not grateful for this. I'm working my ass off. I'm exhausted all the time. When can I get to the next phase? Mm-hmm. But many times along the way, I was able to be grateful for the moment that I was in. But it's a redirect. It takes work.
Yeah. I love gratitude for that reason too. It's very centering and it's also very accessible. Like there's always something to be grateful for. And it's something that we can all access. I feel like even something like meditation or yoga or all these other spiritual modalities can be harder to access for some people because they think meditation is too complicated or yoga, they're not, whatever. But gratitude is like, we can all practice that. We can all access that, and we can all feel that and practice embodying it.
It takes a conscious choice to say, I want to turn myself to gratitude right now. One of my students in my story theater retreat that I did for many years told a story of her and her husband had got into this bickering, this pattern of bickering. I mean, she'd be there with the kids all day long, and he'd walk in the door and he'd start bitching and moaning. And she was getting really just tired of it and starting to think about, I need a divorce. This is just, I just can't take this anymore. He just walks in the door and he just bitches about everything. And so one day she decided the minute he walks in the door, he's going to start bitching. She said, stop. 3 good things. Do not say anything else. Say 3 good things that happened today, honey. 3 good things before you go anywhere else. And so he stopped dead in his tracks and he went, okay. And he came up with 3 good things. And she said 3 good things. And every night when he walked in the door, she said 3 good things. And she developed a book called 3 Good Things. And Deborah and I, from that day on, took this on as either of us can call it out at any time, any day. And more often than not, when we're walking the dog at night, we'll be walking the dog and one of us will say 3 good things. And I'll just come up with 3 and she'll come up with 3. And sometimes they're like something that happened that was really cool. But some days it's like, I got nothing. And so it's like, I'm alive. I had oatmeal for breakfast. I like walking my dog. Okay, you go. It's like, but it's a lovely redirect towards love, towards gratitude, towards appreciation for, I mean, just being alive, to live another day and give it another shot, and to see what surprises are going to come next. What other good thing could happen in life? What else can I learn? Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you stop being open, and I think that's where cancer comes from and a lot of sicknesses, people get closed. They close down. They say, this is how it is. I'm not open to anything else. This is how it is. Mm-hmm. And they get stubborn. Stubborn is not a strategy for success.
Yeah. Yeah. You create blockages. You know, when you do so mentally, it also manifests physically.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. I've made myself sick.
Oh, yeah.
I know
me too.
I've made myself sick.
Yeah, same. I know for sure that the second time I got kidney stones was because I was in an incredibly unhealthy relationship with someone who caused a lot of stress, and that manifested into physical sickness. And I learned a lot from that experience.
Bad jobs, bad relationships, bad situations will cause us manifested sickness in our body. Mm-hmm. Digestive problems, headaches, just backaches. Your back will be out. It's like all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So we've got to catch it before we hurt ourselves. It's like we say, but this person is hurting me. You're choosing to be in relationship with the person that's hurting you. You're giving them the darts. Mm-hmm. They're throwing darts at you and you're standing there and you're the dartboard. Get out of the way. Yeah. But it is so hard because it's like, but I like the darts.
Yeah.
Because at least there's somebody throwing them at me. It's like, oh my God. I'd rather, I mean, literally in LA, I remember sometimes going like 1.5 years to 2 years without a relationship in my early 20s. And I remember thinking, I'm in LA. I'm in my early 20s. I'm horny as hell. I need to be with somebody. And yet sometimes the offer that was out there for somebody was like, no, that's not what I want.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm looking for. So I would just be like, it wasn't a choice to be celibate. It's a choice to be healthy and whole and not get sucked into some weirdness. And eventually I did get sucked into a lot of weirdness. That's why I'm grateful for unanswered prayers.
And this kind of comes back to something that I wanted to circle back on, is like, I feel like that pivotal moment for you in acknowledging like it was time for you to transition from LA to the next season, the next phase, the next whatever it was going to be that you didn't know at the time, was you realizing that where you were at the time and what it is that you were investing your time and energy into was distancing you from your true self, from the pure intention of bringing others joy. Right. You had completely strayed away from that purity. And I feel like that's something that's so important to keep in mind when we're navigating this life, is like, is this person, is this situation that I'm involving myself with distancing me from my true self or bringing me closer to my true self? And that answer in and of itself, whatever it is, will gift you the guidance of where it is you need to go.
It also allows you to have to explore what is my true self, which is not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy to know, especially in your 20s and early years while you're trying to form who am I. And who you are is formed so much by what's going on around you and what are you choosing to do. I just heard in that the shift for me went from I want to give to I have to get. That's when I realized I am in trouble. I came here to give joy. I wanted to be an actor to give joy, to make people laugh. I had a gift. And at some point, it stopped being, I want to give my gift. And it became, I want to get a TV show. I want to get a role. I want to get money. I want to get fame. And it no longer became about what can I give. And interestingly enough, when I got to be a speaker, it got back to being giving. I got to give keynotes. I got to give joy. I got to give people help with change. And then I started coaching other speakers. And another transition happened when I was doing keynotes. It was like, I'm giving, but I'm still needing to get the applause, get the validation that I'm talented because I didn't get it as an actor. So as a keynote speaker, it was kind of like I'm giving and I'm getting, and that I'm kind of healing it. And then I started to coach other people. And one day I came home from coaching and I said, honey, I'm happier helping them give their talks than I am giving my own. I'm happier helping them, giving to them. So many students said, you just gave me, Doug. You just coached me how to be me. You didn't try and change me. You helped me be me. It's like, and I realized I'm giving again, and I don't need to get anymore. That's why I was able to let go of speaking, because it's like I have gotten so much from speaking and so many audiences. It's like, I don't need to get that. I don't need to be center stage anymore. I need to help others, which is hopefully what this podcast is doing, that you're giving out to people. It's like you and I are giving, which is where I'm at in my life now. It's like, I just want to give. I just want to coach people. And when somebody calls me up to say, would you fly to Atlanta and give a keynote? It's like, no, done. That chapter is over. Deborah had a hard time with that because it's like, honey, it's a booking, it's money. No, done. Another transition. Talk about a weird transition. Transitioning from a life of activity and making money and doing things and being validated to a life of retirement where it's like you wake up in the morning, it's like, I have nothing on the calendar. I don't know what to do with myself today. I think I'll have a cup of coffee and then I'll see what happens. And it's just so different. But you get there.
Yeah.
A day at a time, a miracle at a time, a surprise at a time, an ally at a time, angel at a time, a secret helper at a time. Trust the universe, trust yourself, trust your resilience.
Yeah.
Share your gift.
And I do feel like our true self and our true purpose is one that is of service. So when you feel like you are gifting of yourself to others and you are assisting others in that gift, I feel like that is a sign that you are in alignment with your true self and your true purpose.
The challenge is finding people who resonate with you and receive your gift with admiration and acceptance and joy. There are people you will give your gift to and they'll throw it in the trash basket and they'll make you feel bad about it. That doesn't mean your gift isn't a beautiful gift. It means you've got to find somebody else that appreciates that gift, because you're not for everybody. Jocelyn's not for everybody. Doug is not for everybody. That was hard for me.
I think that's hard for a lot of people. You know, like they want to be for everyone.
We don't want anybody to not like us. You know what? If you're true and purely who you are, there's somebody who's going to have issues with you, and it's not you.
Yeah.
They've got issues.
Yeah. And I love that you emphasized on, like, just because someone isn't receiving your gift doesn't mean that your gift isn't a gift. And that's very important to acknowledge. And your people, you align with them as you stay consistent.
Well, you attract that to you, which is yours. What is yours will find you. Now, that doesn't mean that it's effortless and easy. You have to keep putting it out there, and you have to repurpose it. You have to be willing to shift and change and move it around. I mean, all of a sudden I'm doing a podcast. I'm repurposing what I've done forever. And I'm finding a new audience because the podcast goes globally. I've got people from India and all over the planet listening to my podcast. It's like, a new audience, but I'm just giving it. I have no intention to make any money or get any speaking gigs. I'm just giving it out there and seeing what happens. And so, yes, you just, what is yours will find you. But that lesson of you give your gift. And if somebody says, I don't like your gift, I think it's crap. Well, then you just walk away and you find somebody else.
Yeah. You don't waste your energy trying to prove yourself that you're worthy or that your gift is a gift. You just walk away. And I think that is important.
Yeah. It's hard to walk away because it's like we have this in our, that's the ego.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ego. That's where the ego gets in there and does damage. But no, really, you need to understand how amazing I am. Don't you get it? I'm wonderful. I've been really good to you. You should love me. I've been nice. I've been good. Don't you realize? It's like, I got clobbered so many times in a relationship where I thought that I was just this wonderful people. And sometimes they even said, you're this wonderful man. I don't know why I'm going to clobber this relationship. But it was like, yes, my gift was lovely, but I was giving it to the wrong people. And when I showed up in front of Deborah, it's like she looked at me as if I was the most wonderful person in the world. And it's like, I don't think I look any different. I didn't lose a lot of weight. It was just something in my soul that was different. So yeah, you've got to be a gift of service. I think you're right, Jocelyn. And that's, I think, one of the things that you have always done so beautifully is like you just have this innate desire to give your gift and to explore what that expression looks like and sounds like. And I'm grateful for that.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate you. And I do want to touch on that that recent transition that you had, because again, I was able to witness you when you were in the midst of experiencing your last gig and knowing that you were approaching retirement and knowing that you were approaching a life of stillness. Whereas prior to where you're at now, you were so busy, you had gigs, you were traveling, you were on stages. So I feel like you probably have been learning a lot about stillness and allowing yourself to rest, allowing yourself to be still. And I'd like to know more about how this transition has unfolded for you.
Well, I think COVID enforced it on all of us. And it came at the right time for me because like I was a year away from picking a date and being done. And then COVID hit. It's like, wait, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I want to do it on my terms. But COVID basically said, no, you're done now. Because there's no, every gig I had on the calendar went away for every speaker. And so it was like very disturbing for a while because I hadn't chosen it. It had been chosen for me. And I think you can relate to that. It's like, but wait a minute. I would rather be the one breaking up with someone than being the one broken up with. I feel like the world broke up with me and I didn't know what to do with myself. For months, I was just like upset and confused and anxious during the day. I didn't know how to relax. But after a while, it's like, so it's okay to wake up in the morning and not have anything to do and not know what I'm going to do all day long. And at the end of the day, go, I didn't do anything today. And that's okay. And I slowly relaxed into it. But then when it became the time when I finally did have those last two that had been on the calendar, but had been pushed off for a year, they held them on the calendar. They said, we'll do it next year. When they finally came back, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to go because I've retired. I've experienced sloth. I've experienced peace. I've experienced sitting on the back patio with a cup of coffee and just sitting there for an hour and listening to the birds and watching them come onto the, bird bath. It's like I was in a different rhythm, a slower rhythm. And so I went out and I did those two, knowing, check it off. That's the second to the last one. Check it off. And the universe basically said to me, I'm going to give you a beautiful gift. The last booking that you're going to have is going to be on an island in Wisconsin. It's going to be with trainers. It's going to be for 2.5 days. And it's going to be very interactive and very lovely. And you're the show. And it's going to be a lot of coaching and a lot of story theater, teaching trainers, because a lot of corporate people don't want the theater. Trainers do. They want the theater. They want the blocking and the staging and the emotion and the loud and the quiet and all of the things that I did. So for my last gig, I got to do all of what I do, and they just loved it. They just embraced it, and they just loved it, and they did it. They'd go off and they'd work on it, and they'd come back and they'd do a story with all of my stuff in it. And it was like, this is amazing. And then at night, we would sit around this bonfire, this like 8-foot high bonfire with marshmallows and s'mores and stuff. And people would tell stories based on what we'd done during the day. It was so healing. And I had mentioned to this one guy that had basically got me the gig. He was in the company and he'd recommended me to his training director to hire me. And he'd known me for 15 years and had never been able to hire me before. And I was sitting at lunch with him and I said, I'm going to tell you this, but I haven't told anybody else. This is my last gig. When I get on a plane and go home from this, I'm done. I won't be getting on planes anymore. And he went and he told his, team, this is Doug's last gig. And on the night before the last thing, they gave me a retirement cake with a candle. And I was almost in tears. It's like the universe is just saying, we're going to give you this one, Doug. Because a lot of the stuff that I did is kind of challenging, but this one was just such a gift. And so that was kind of such a beautiful synchronous way. Once again, a surprise, because I was going into this thinking, oh my God, 2.5 days on an island in Wisconsin. What is that? And it turned out to be the most joyous corporate booking that I'd had in probably 15 years. The most wonderful connection with people. And I came home and I was like, honey, I'm good. I am just good, because synchronicity, these lovely, elegant, wonderful surprises, when you make a commitment to a course of action, a commitment to the way things, what you want them to work out, sometimes they just work out better than you could have ever imagined. And that was it. And now on a daily basis, because I think that's the question, is like, well, what do you do? How are you handling it? It's lovely. It's lovely. I just so enjoy my space. And for a while, I didn't know what the heck I was going to do. And then it's like, oh, I could do a podcast. And so now, like today, I was sitting around going, I could go in the office and work on my podcast. Nah, don't feel like it. And that's okay. Because I'm in a place now where it's like, if I don't put out a podcast, nobody's going to notice that I didn't. I'm not on schedule anymore. So can you imagine your life with no schedule? That's what my life is like. It's a life with no schedule. It's the payoff. It's the happy ending. And I've got grandkids here in Tucson that I get to spend time with. And I was just out in Idlewild, up by Palm Springs with the other grandkids. And so my life focus is now grandkids and taking care of myself and my health and my well-being, my nutrition. Because at this point, and I think everybody who's in their 70s will tell you, is like, yeah, your body's going through a transition, whether you like it or not. You're old. So I went to the gym today and I worked out and everything, but that's kind of it. You release yourself into the pleasantness of what it is. And that's one of the most challenging things, I think, when you're busy in your life, is to just be present in the moments that you're in. Go, in this room that I'm in with these people, am I good with this? Is this a good situation? Is this not just tolerable, but enjoyable. Okay, then I'm going to continue doing this. To just be present with what is, and to be willing to persevere long enough to really give it a shot. Because I gave LA 13 years. I was done after 10, and I kept going for a year, trying to be an actor for a year when it was like, ay, ay, ay. The last year of being an actor was just ugly. And the next 2 years were just trying to extricate myself. Literally, I don't think I did any acting for the last 2 years. I was just trying to get out. So it's just, give it a shot. Set yourself a course of action, set your sail, pursue it. But when you start being unhappy all the time, months at a time, pick a date. You'll look back and be grateful that you picked a date and moved on.
There's one last question that I want to ask you that I want to touch on. One of my current beliefs is that we are here in this life with the intention to develop our soul. And our personality, you as Doug, me as Jocelyn, like who we are as humans and in this journey is developing our soul for a specific reason. We're here to learn certain lessons that perhaps we didn't learn in past lifetimes. So I wanted to ask you, in that perspective, in that light, looking back at your 70 plus years, what you feel and what you perceive and understand to be the lessons that you were meant to learn in this lifetime to develop your soul.
Wow. Never really tried to figure that one out. Reflecting on these patterns and these choices and these challenges, I've often said my greatest challenge in this life is being chosen. For some reason, being an actor, you're constantly auditioning and need to be chosen. As a realtor, there's all these realtors and you need to be chosen among all the realtors. As a speaker, you need to be chosen. As a man trying to be in relationship with women, you need to be chosen. And so I think the issue that I've been working on my whole life is to stop needing to be chosen and to choose me. And when I stopped being desperate to be chosen and I worked on myself and I chose to heal myself, that's when Deborah showed up. And that's when she started working with me in the business, and Story Theater came around, and everything seemed to get healed, starting with Deborah when she chose me. But it wasn't because I was desperate to be chosen. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't trying to choose or be chosen. I think the lesson, the challenge of my life is getting over this need to be chosen, which comes out of a deep insecurity, obviously. That it's like, I'm not worthy, so please choose me. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not fill in the blank. And to get to the place of, I am enough. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm okay. And I think when I chose me and became clean, and I think that word clean, that cleansing, soul cleansing, getting over the traumas of your childhood with your parents, your siblings and your upbringing. I think once I did that cleansing and I chose me, I chose to work on me instead of other people. I think that's when then the true transformational shift took place. Because I've often said on the day that Deborah and I stood on that little chuppah in our backyard and got married and we were going through that process, it was her second marriage. So she'd kind of been through it before. But for me, it's like, I'm finally here. I'm actually getting married. This is better than being Harrison Ford in Star Wars. This is the greatest challenge of my life is to be chosen at this level purely. And I sat there in a chair and sobbed the most deep sobs I have ever sobbed in my life. It was the cathartic release of my entire life to finally be at this place of, oh my God, I'm there. Nothing else will ever be better than this. Nothing else will be. This is the healing of all healings. In my book, in the preface, it says it is dedicated to Deborah for changing the story of my life. because she literally did. That was what I needed. Once Deborah said, I do, everything else has been just gravy. It's been like, okay, well, that's fine, but I don't need anything else. And so I think that's quite the question to be asked, I think, for all of us. Say, well, what is the work that you're doing on this in this lifetime? Because I'm with you about many, many, many thousands of lifetimes. And something that Deborah and I agree on is we've been together in other lifetimes. We often say, we're just continuing the conversation. I hope somebody can hear that. That when you find your soulmate, it's like, yes, they are mated to your soul from lifetimes.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, choosing me.
That's really beautiful. And that line of like, we're just continuing the conversation, that's really poetic and really beautiful. And I feel like a reflection of what a soulmate is like when you feel like you are just continuing the conversation. And you bring up Deborah a lot in our conversations. And I know she has had such a beautiful, divine impact in your life. And I always
She's my
love,
teacher. She's my guru, which is the transformation, because I always had to be smarter, wiser, the great guy or whatever. And it's like, no, with Deborah, it's like I learned from her. I basically showed up and said, teach me how to be in relationship. My entire soul said, teach me how to be in relationship. Teach me how to be a husband. And so, yeah, Deborah is the transformational. She's God's gift to me, God's guidance. She's my Buddha, and she's the opposite of me. So I hope everybody can get that. It's like, no, my soulmate isn't like me. My soulmate is very different from me. She's very anal retentive and very needing to be in control and very, very fussy about things and very logical and linear, and I'm not. But she also is my soulmate. She's got the softness. She's got the right brain, left brain, the yin and the yang.
yeah. And I feel, lastly, I feel like because I'm sure when you first met her, you felt something. And as you continue to converse with her and spend time with her, was there ever a moment for you as a man, having experienced, past relationships that just weren't for you and weren't good to you? Did you ever have that moment where when you met Deborah, you were like, I'm not worthy of her, or I'm not good enough, or like intimidated that you needed to change who you were as a man in order to receive her and continue to experience her?
My relationships before Deborah were outside in. I was attracted to the facade and perhaps the personality. But with Deborah, I met her in the lobby of a New Thought church, and I had never seen her before. And I walked up to her. I just turned around, and there she was. And I says, "Hi, you want a hug?" And I bent down because she's short, and I bent down to hug her, and I just melted into her. And I felt, and I've often said, I felt like I was being healed in that hug. And it was like witchcraft or something. It was like, wow. And I came out of that hug feeling like I've been healed. Something has just shifted in me. And it was not logical in any way, shape, or form. And as we continued on our path, and I wanted kids, and she was done with kids, and I was not willing to have a relationship with anybody that didn't want kids because I was 40. And so there was all of these roadblocks. But my soul was just screaming at me. It's like, shut up with all the other stuff. This is it. This is your soulmate. This is the one. Just let go of kids. Let go of everything. And talk about letting go. That was just excruciating for me, because I was so wanting to have kids. And she was like, no, not me. We can be friends, but no. And once we got over that hump, and I said, no, I want to be with you. I'm letting go of the kids. And when we got into a relationship and we were married, and I'd keep saying to her, you know what? I definitely got the better end of this deal. She'd say, no, honey. I got these two boys. and you're helping me with these two boys. I got the better end of this deal by far. And I'd say, no, really, you're helping me so much. You say, no, that's not true. I think I got the better end of this deal. And for a year, we would go back and forth. It was like a standing joke. It's like, no, I got the better end. And when she contradicted me and said, I think I got the better end of this deal, I was just blown away, because once again, it's like that small part of me that's still saying, I am still not good enough for this woman. And everything about her said, you are everything that I want in a man. You're just, she saw right through all of it, right to my soul, because I think that's what she can do. She can recognize the soul. And I had a hard time with that. But then guys do. Guys, we have a hard time. I mean, it took me till 44 to get married. So what does that say? But yeah, I definitely felt like I had the better end of the deal and I was somewhat unworthy. And eventually it came to the place where it's like, you know what, let's just agree we both got the better end of the deal. And this is just an amazing gift for both of us. And we raised the kids together, and I learned, because man, I had a hard time being a dad, a stepdad. It was rough. I had two boys who wanted to get rid of me. It was hard.
Yeah.
But you know what? And I think I've said this to you in other conversations. When a relationship is right, when it is the absolute correct right one, your soulmate, you can't mess it up. As much as you try, as much as you put roadblocks in the way and have logical reasons why not, it's going to happen. It's going to keep coming back around like a boomerang, and it's going to happen. And when you're in the wrong relationship, no matter how hard you try, no matter how many compromises you make or excuses you make or just ridiculous tricks you try and play, if it's not the right one, no matter what happens, it will implode and it will hurt. And better get out sooner rather than later, because it's just, you can't fix what's not fixable. And you can't make the right one happen, because it's just going to happen. I couldn't make Deborah happen. I didn't, maybe I manifested that. But I basically think I opened a door and let people look in. And she walked right through that door and said, I'm here now. And I said, welcome. 28 years in June, when I never thought I'd have a relationship more than 3 months. She taught me how to do it. And I was a willing student. I am grateful for Deborah.
Willingness is a key, for sure, to life.
Openness, willingness. I remember a song when I was having a hard time. I can't remember who it's by, but it was like, I'm willing to learn. The lyric was, I'm willing to learn. And I just remember just singing that over and over again. It's like, would somebody please teach me how to do a relationship? I'm willing to learn. Would somebody just get in here with me and work on it with me? And it's like, I couldn't find anybody willing to work on it. I wanted to work on relationship, and people were like, no. I just want to have fun. It's like, no, I want relationships. So yeah, willingness, openness, receptiveness, but also keep your antenna out. Because if you're open and willing and receptive, there are people who will step right in and smack you around. So you got to be willing to say, I'm going to be open and receptive and willing, but I'm also going to have my boundaries. Who was it that had that song? Ariana Grande, Thank You, Next. Remember that one that came out a while ago?
Yeah.
I love that, because I thought, yeah, that's kind of like the story of my relationships. Thank you. Next. Until Deborah's like, no, thank you. Stick around.
Yeah.
But that's gratitude. I love that song because it was about gratitude. It's like, thank you. You taught me some good things. Moving on, next. But I love that because the sentiment is thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It's gratitude.
Yeah. We can really be grateful for absolutely every experience in our life. Yeah. Even the toughest, most challenging ones.
Yeah, just know that sometimes it takes a couple months once you're outside of it to be able to look back and be grateful for it. Because sometimes when you're in it, not fun. I think I spent at least 3 years of my life heartbroken, in a fog, not being able to function well, just slogging through day after day after day because my heart just got broken. I think there was a lot of those days. But I look back now, it's like, no, all good. Needed that.
Yeah.
Needed that. The hardest part of it is to release completely those people and events that you feel burned you or hurt you, and to completely release them without having this ego hold that they're going to pay. They're going to hurt. I hope they come back and apologize. And I had to do a lot of work on that kind of stuff, because it's like I kept thinking, at some point they're going to come back and acknowledge that they were wrong. They're going to apologize. It's like, no, Douglas, that's not how you move on. That's not how you move on. That's you're still holding on to that person. Let them go. Let go of the grudge. Let go of that's not gratitude. That's not, I'm grateful for the lessons you taught me, and I'm glad it didn't work out. That's, I want you to hurt. It's like, no, I don't want them to hurt. They're hurting enough, I'm sure, without my needing them to hurt. Release, let go, surrender. Release, let go, surrender. Release, let go, surrender. Move on. Pick a date.
Mm-hmm. Well, Doug, I could speak with you for hours. And I really appreciate, again, this conversation, but also just our friendship and your presence in my life, because I feel like us having these conversations in different seasons of my life has been very affirmative for me. And it's really special to have a friendship like ours, where we are in such different seasons of our life and we are in different levels of experience in our life, but we have this really reciprocal relationship of learning from each other and just supporting each other. And it's very simple, but it's profound. And I hope that everyone gets to experience a friendship like ours.
I feel like we're souls in communion. You know, we're just, it doesn't matter our age difference. That's when I first felt like I want to connect with Jocelyn. It's like, it wasn't about ages. It wasn't about anything. It's like, it's that soul connection. It's that I recognize you. I recognize you. Aren't we meant to connect? And I think that's the biggest clue to success in life, is to find more and more of those connections. You don't need hundreds of them, because I don't have tons of them. I don't have many people like you that I commune with in this way, but they are extremely important and extremely special. And we've got to cultivate those and create those. And yeah, as we go through the seasons of our life, even though we're very, very far apart in age, we're not very, very far apart in soul at all. Not at all. So thank you for this opportunity to share and give my gift with your wonderful audience of listeners, the people who appreciate you and follow you. And I know that what is yours will find you, and what is mine will find me. Mm-hmm. We'll get to give our gift.
Do you feel, I'd like to hold space for you if you feel like there's anything that we didn't touch on that you feel called to share or speak on?
Love yourself and let them watch. Love yourself, step out into the world, and let people watch you being in love with yourself, being okay with yourself, being clean with yourself. Love yourself enough to let people watch you being amazingly, wonderfully you. Love yourself and let them watch.
I love that. Thank you, Doug. And I forgot that I'm integrating a final 5 in my podcast at the end of every conversation, where it's just rapid 5 sentences where you're filling in the blank. It could be one word, it could be more than one word, but you're just filling in the blank of the sentence.
Okay.
I am grateful to be.
Doug.
I am grateful to understand.
The synchronicity and perfection of life.
I am grateful to overcome.
The need to be liked.
I am grateful to begin.
Every day with an openness to be surprised.
And I am grateful to release.
Any attachment to the past having to have been anything other than what it was.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Doug. I appreciate you and I love you and I'm excited to share this.
I love you back. Namaste.